So, Preet, before we actually go on to the game, I'd just like to get to know that on the back of a humbling defeat at the hands of Aston Villa at home, were you confident of getting a result going into the game against a relentless Leeds United and the way they play?
Oh yes, absolutely. I was actually expecting Arsenal to win by 4 or 5 goals. Yes, they didn't. So, I mean, I don't think Leeds have been relentless. At least the recent results before the match against Arsenal were disappointing. They lost. They had two 4-1 back-to-back defeats against Palace and Leicester. So it's
Hmm.
mixed back for them as well. But yeah, I mean, uh, you know what you're going to expect. What you can expect from Leeds. There's a constant threat of them attacking, taking the game to the opposition. Um, they close down well. They hassle their opponents. So I mean, I mean, I definitely expected a tough game. City have gone there and drawn, and so yeah, I mean, I definitely expected it to be a tough game, and at the end of it, I'm actually kind of okay with the point.
Yeah, and now coming back to the game, like you said, is it really a point gained or two dropped? Because there was certainly many aspects to the game. First of all, Arsenal did play majority of the second half at 10 men, but then again, of for a club like Arsenal's stature, you really want to go to Ellen Road and get the 3 points. So, is it a point gained, or you do you consider this as a disappointment and 2 points more dropped in the race for top four of the title? And you obviously while getting your overall thoughts on the game and the performance itself.
Yeah, I think the title was never in question for Arsenal this season. It's going to be at least 2 to 3 seasons of building this team up. It's a phase of transition. So I mean, we have to live with these sort of results if we want new manager to succeed and kind of implant his thoughts or his tactics on the team, build the team around specific players, right? So it's going to be a long and
Mhm.
it's going to be a long process. There will be a lot of losses in the next season or so, this season as well. There'll be a lot of frustrating draws. So I'm actually kind of I mean, I think Arsenal fans have grown to be a bit patient. I think we kind of jumped the gun with the selection of Emery and then we sacked him. I think we want things to go right with this managerial appointment. So I think in that sense, Leeds away 1 point, not a bad result. I would say 1 point gained, especially given that we put on a decent shift for about half an hour after we were down to 10 men. Thoughts about the game itself? I was actually pleased to see the manager changing around a little bit, and I think that's a bit down to the fact that Partey and Elneny weren't available for selection. I think both tested positive for COVID. So yeah, we started with Xhaka and Ceballos, which worked really well towards the end of last season. Um,
Mhm.
Due to a lack of options, I think we started with Willian again, uh, Joe Willock and Pepe. I was actually pleased to see Aubameyang playing through the center, which I've been talking about for the last few episodes, and was actually pleased to also see Pepe getting a run out primarily because I've been talking about how unpredictable he can be. Uh, and what he did at the end of the game was also quite unpredictable, right? We kind of had to uh, battle to just gain a point. Um, what the problem for Arsenal was, I think we started the first 10 or 15 minutes pretty well, and then after that it was a constant barrage of Leeds attacks. Um, we were unable to keep the ball in midfield for long. Joe Willock, I thought played well in the recent Europa League games, deserved his start, but I think he kind of fell a little short of putting on a decent performance. He was just running into his own teammates. He was kind of struggling to get anything going. Aubameyang looked alone up front because he wasn't getting any service from his midfielders. Willian was very flat again, and that probably got to do with him breaking, club rules and going off to Dubai during the break. Pepe was
Hmm.
okay. I felt he was kind of making some inroads, but I think he was kind of contained well by Alioski and Cooper. Uh,
Right.
and I think things just I think we could have still nicked the match in the second half, even if I mean if he had kept if he had stayed with 11 men, right? I think we would have had created maybe a chance or two towards the end, with Leeds
Right.
probably tiring out, and us getting some fresh legs like Saka on, and we almost did, right? Because
True.
when Bellerin played that ball into Saka, I think he dangled on it for too long, and Meslier was able to make that save.
Right.
So overall, given how given the options that were available to us, given the fact that we were down to 10 men, and given that the opposition was Leeds away, I would say this is a point gained. So we do have, and I mean the fixtures that we've had so far this season. I think all of the away games apart from Fulham have been difficult. We've already travelled to Liverpool, we've travelled to City, we've travelled to United, and now Leeds. With those kind of
Hmm.
fixtures out of the way, we've come out with one win, one draw, and two losses, which is kind of okay in a season where it's mainly about a lot of transition and kind of ensuring some sort of stability into the team. So yes, I
Right.
would say it's a point gain rather than a point drop.
Right, and we talked about the personnel as well, the personnel selection. Obviously, not everyone was available for Arteta, and he sort of mixed things up as he promised before the international break. One question there from my side is that is Arteta really right to persist with Willian? And obviously, he is sort of that frustrating personality, in terms of his inconsistencies, and given the fact that Arsenal are screaming for a creative outlet, do you think the exile of Ozil, is justified, or how do you think Arteta has played this one out? Do you think he's making the correct decision in terms of Willian and Ozil, or is something got to change there?
From a completely neutral point of view, I mean it's kind of easy to say. I mean, look at Arsenal right now, and say they lack creativity, which they do. We've only scored 9 goals
Hmm.
in 9 matches, which is abysmal. Uh, we definitely lack that creative outlet. But the fact that Ozil isn't selected for as part of the squad is got to do with several other reasons, right? Which
Right.
I've
Yeah.
talked about a few times earlier. Us having to pay an appearance fee and a lot of other factors that have kind of gone into this particular decision, and also the fact that um, Arteta really doesn't see Ozil in the play well in the squad in this particular
Hmm.
formation at least. Um, so and I don't see a point talking about it right now because at least till January when there's another chance for the manager to submit a squad sheet. So I don't think there's a point about mulling over that. Regarding Willian, he's apart from the first match, obviously he's been quite disappointing. He's been quite flat. He's unable to create
Hmm.
opportunities or that service for strikers as we had hoped that he would. Um,
Right.
and I think it's also got to do with the fact that we've been kind of toothless in attack. We've been playing Lacazette up front, who he did have some kind of form early in the season. He scored 3 goals, but then
Hmm.
it's just not worked out for us, right? Aubameyang playing right on to the left, Willian switching between left and right, playing kind of uncertain role through through midfield, and also the lack of options right now. We had Partey out, we had El Nini out, and we kind of had to play two or three very similar midfielders against Leeds.
Right.
Chaka, Ceballos, Willock, Willian, very similar ball playing central midfielders, and that's kind of where I think we struggled to get any sort of momentum going. Um, so I think it's down to a lack of options right now. That
Hmm.
is going to be interesting in terms of whether we'll be able to sell some players who we try to sell in during the window. Players like Socrates. I don't know if there'll be any takers for Ozil. Too early to say. Maybe we might just tear his contract or whatever. But apart from that, I don't see a lot of options unless the Cronkies actually pull some money out of their pockets and fund another midfielder for us.
Right. And
That on a
we.
very interesting
Hmm.
note, right? I saw the performance of Matteo Guendouzi against Dortmund very recently.
Hmm.
So Hertha Berlin lost 5-2 at home, but um, the performance of Guendouzi kind of stood out. He kind of ran a lot of good things that Berlin were able to do uh,
Hmm.
in terms of running through the midfield against a very experienced and strong Dortmund side. The
Right.
way he kept the ball in several occasions, the way he maneuvered out of tough situations. Maybe if he had kept him, maybe if his attitude was right, I think he would have been, a decent option this season. But that's not the case, right? It's
Right.
for the manager as
And
well, and we just have to live with it.
right, and given how the whole thing with Ceballos is turning out, you really don't want two temperamental midfielders in the same squad, I suppose. So, and while talking about form of players, Aubameyang, obviously he's. I mean, no, there's no doubting his quality as such. We all know he's world class, but he looks like a shadow of his former self. I don't see anything to do with the contract signing. It's just a milestone in a timeline, but do you think it's just a blip in the form, or down to say really a lack of support in from the midfield or from the wings, or is there something really wrong going on behind the scenes? What do you feel about that?
Um, I think it's a bit of everything. I'm assuming a lack of, in terms of lack of support, or in terms of, obviously we've not created enough chances either. The fact that, I mean, we haven't scored a goal in what, 7 or 8 hours of football. That's just shocking, right? In
Yeah,
goal in open, in terms of non-penalties, right? It's
true.
we in terms of defense, I think we've kind of managed to keep it tight, except against Aston Villa. But apart from that,
Hmm.
in terms of the way we are slowly building attacks, it's just not working out for Arsenal. We've had teams in the past that have had quick build-ups. We've had players that could shift the ball through midfield faster, and right now it seems like it's more about having a proper structure and more about having the proper formation throughout, rather than playing some free flowing football and just enjoying yourselves out there, right? So I think it's got to
Yeah.
do. I think it's got to do with what how Arteta wants the team to play, his teams to play football. But I think he also needs to give some sort of you know creative freedom to players who actually want to express themselves, or else you're going to just stifle you know
Hmm.
the best the goal scorer in Premier League.
Right.
So I think it's got to do with a lot of these things. Now that he started in the center of attack against Leeds, I hope that kind of continues, and we're sort of able to build on that and kind of take it to the next match.
Right. That's yeah. That's quite obvious. The lack of support, like you correctly mentioned. Moving on to another topic. There's you can never have a discussion on Premier League football without mentioning VAR at all in the discussion. So once again, it was at the center of the tension in the game. I'll start with the obvious, talking point of red card for Nico Pepe. Do you think the red card was justified, or did Alioski made the most of the situation where there was nothing to really do about?
I think, I mean, what Pepe did was obviously stupid. But
Yeah.
we've been watching Premier League for so long. I've seen worse things that have happened, and players getting away with nothing for that sort of
Yeah.
challenge, right? I mean, that seemed like a nothing. kind of ahead, but
True.
probably, I mean, if this was like say 8 or 9 years ago, it would have probably been a yellow card, or it would have just been a warning from the referee to get on with the match. But I think rules have changed,
Hmm.
and Alioski did the this made most of the situation like how Lamela did against Martial, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I wouldn't really blame him. I think if it was an Arsenal player that did that, I wouldn't be. I mean, I wouldn't be able to defend that, right? At the end of the day, that's how. I
True.
mean, if you are able to get any sort of advantage for your side, you'll take it, right? So, um, and this was, I think, completely down to Pepe blowing his chance to have some sort of a run in the team. He was finally given a start. He should have kept his calm, should have just forgotten whatever it was and just continued with the game and shown his skills during the match rather than that stupid incident. And he's out for 3 matches now, and three important matches where we can actually pick up at least 6 points against
Yeah,
Wolves and Burnley, and a tough match against Spurs away, right? So
true.
yeah, so yeah,
Yeah, and moving on to the second incident, there was a late shout for handball against Liam Cooper. Now the whole fiasco around the handball rule is shambolic. We know all that. Some decisions are given, some not. But do you feel that Arsenal have been hard done by? Do you think that was a penalty, given how all the other clubs are getting handball penalties these days? Is that something that you feel that you should have got a penalty, or was that the right call by Anthony Taylor this time around?
I mean, I thought that was the penalty, because it seemed like his hands. I mean, that wasn't very natural movement, and and this is not the first time that this happening this season. We had a goal disallowed against perfect goal that was disallowed against Leeds.
Yeah,
Sorry, against Leicester. Uh,
yeah,
this particular penalty was denied. Um, but I mean, you can't do anything about these sort of decisions. I probably would have, um, you know, I definitely think it should have been a penalty, and he should have been probably sent off. But it just, I mean, the referee just took his decision immediately, given kind of dangle upon it, and it was unfortunate that not even the commentators or the broadcast
true.
channels actually talked about it. I'm pretty sure if it was some other club that we all know, being talked to no end, and yeah, so it is just unfortunate.
And it so happens that the other so-called club also got a handball penalty this weekend, so it makes all the more worse, I suppose.
Yeah,
Thanks for that, Supreet. So, last question for you before I let you go. As you correctly mentioned, Pepe, after giving public interviews as to how frustrated he is with the lack of game time, Arteta finally trusted him and thrown him into the deep end in the starting 11, and he goes on and does this. Where does he go from here? Do you think he can revive his Arsenal career from this probably his lowest point at the club? Or do you think Arteta has had enough and maybe a move is on the cards in the coming windows?
it's hard to say. Pepe put out an apology, I think, yesterday or
Yeah, 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 yeah.
back.
He did.
And if it was genuine, if he really means that he wants to work hard and prove himself, then I mean, the Premier League is the stage. I mean, setbacks like these can happen to any player. A red card is, part and parcel of football. He's Even though he's out of 3 Premier League games, we have 3 key Europa League games coming up. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Molde, Rapid Wien, and Dundalk, um, which he is definitely eligible to play. And I think Arteta is going to start him because we don't have too many other options right now. He
Right.
just has to put his head down and prove that he still can make some sort of difference to this Arsenal squad. Um, in terms of the manager's trust in him, I think it's definitely gone down after that incident. It's sure
Mm,
that the manager would have had some stern words with him, and hopefully he's learned his lesson. Let's see. Only time will tell.
indeed. All right. Thank you so much, Supreet. This was fun discussing the Arsenal game with you. Good luck for your game against Wolves. Hope you get the 3 points this time. Thank you so much.
You really hope that?
I don't, but I have to be all sweet and nice.